Hey, I'm glad you're here. I'm Doug Graham, and this is Pastor Soul Reset. A few minutes in Scripture to steady your soul, strengthen your dependence, and remind you that before you lead others, Jesus is leading you. Have you ever believed in Jesus and doubted at the same time? Mark chapter 9, verses 14 through 23 is just for you. It's the story of a father whose son was being terrorized by the devil. Let me set the scene. Jesus has just come down from the Mount of Transfiguration, full of glory and radiance and clarity, and he walks straight into chaos. The disciples are arguing, religious leaders are debating, a crowd is gathering, and at the center of this activity is a father. Now, this isn't an abstract theology. This is a dad watching his son suffer. He has seizures, he's having self-harm, he's throwing himself into the fire and throwing himself into water and nearly drowning. And he says to Jesus, Jesus, if you can do anything, take pity on us. That word tells us everything. The boy is suffering, but so is the father. And Jesus responds, what do you mean, if you can? Everything is possible for one who believes. The issue isn't Jesus' ability. The issue is trust. And then comes one of the most honest prayers in all of the Bible. The father says, I do believe, but help my unbelief. This isn't weak faith. This is actually courageous faith. It's faith that refuses to pretend. Now, let me make this personal. In 2020, I went through triple bypass surgery. I'd spent decades preaching to people, trust God in any situation. But the morning of my surgery, lying in that hospital bed, everything really felt different. Monitors humming, consent forms being signed, and the outcome was uncertain. And I remember praying, Lord, I believe, but help my unbelief. Here's the thing. When control disappears, faith gets exposed. It stops being something you teach and it becomes something that you cling to. And that's this father. He doesn't have polished faith. His faith was kind of like mine, what we might call operating room faith. Now look at the disciples. They had cast out demons before. They had great success in Mark chapter 6, but here they fail. And when power is missing, arguments multiply. Have you ever noticed that? When prayer thins out, noise increases. Jesus later explains that this kind only comes out through prayer, not gifting, not experience, but just simple prayer. Ministry drift is almost always dependence drift. You don't stop believing in Jesus. You just stop urgently relying on him. And here's why this passage matters so much. If this story wasn't in the Bible, we might assume that Jesus works only through confident, unwavering faith. We might hide our doubts and fake our certainty. But this father teaches us something freeing, that Jesus honors honest faith, not perfect faith, honest faith. He doesn't reject mixture. Actually, he meets it. So let me ask you directly, where are you saying to Jesus, if you can? Where have you shifted from dependence to assumption? When was the last time you prayed, God, help my unbelief? Listen, friends, that's not regression, that's maturity. Faith grows when self-sufficiency finally collapses. And pastors, hear this gently. Success on Sunday doesn't guarantee the same success the next Sunday. This spiritual reality is what invites us back to prayer day after day after day. Your people don't need your invincibility. They need your dependence. They need to see that you too sometimes pray, Lord, help my unbelief. Now, if you forget everything else about this little devotional, never forget this. Jesus does not require perfect faith, only honest faith placed totally on him. So if this moment together has refreshed your soul and steadied your spirit, let me invite you to subscribe to this channel and join me next time. And remember, before you shepherd others, Jesus is shepherding you. You might think of it this way. As you carry the burdens of others, Jesus is carrying your burden. I'll see you next time on Pastor Soul Reset.